Welcome to the WanderLearn show. I'm your host, Francis Tapon. In this episode, I asked Johnny Ward a simple question, and I give him 2 minutes to answer it, which is, what would it take for Africa to achieve the same standard of living as Europe? Before you listen to his response, I just want to give you an update. As of May 12th, 2023, he is on his way up to the top of Mount Everest. He's probably around Camp 1 or Camp 2 at this point. There's no communication with him, but I just know he's set off. So he's on his way up, and let's hope that he hits it within the next 7 days or so. Before setting off up Mount Everest, Johnny Ward posted a quotation from Theodore Roosevelt, U.S. President, and I'll just read it to you because I think it's a great tale, not just for climbing up Mount Everest, but for doing anything. And I think Johnny Ward, walks the walk, talks the talk of what Theodore Roosevelt's talking about, and I hope it inspires anybody who's listening. I'll read it now. It takes about 30 seconds to read it, and then we'll go straight into the interview with Johnny Ward. Theodore Roosevelt said,
"It is not the critic who counts, not the man who points out how the strong man stumbles, or where the doer of deeds could have done them better. The credit belongs to the man who is actually in the arena, whose face is marred by dust and sweat and blood, who strives valiantly, who errs, who comes short again and again, who spends himself in a worthy cause, who at the best knows in the end the triumph of high achievement, and who at the worst, if he fails, at least fails while daring greatly, so that his place shall never be with those cold and timid souls who neither know victory nor defeat."
Good luck, Johnny Ward, and now let's dive into the 2-minute interview. What do you think will it take for African societies or regions to get closer to the standard of living as Europe?
There's a few things. I mean, for a start, corruption is rife globally. We know that. In Asia, it's obviously rampant, and also in the West. But you know what I feel from the superficial knowledge that I have about it is that in the West, they line their pockets with a Rolex here and a business class trip to a free hotel there. Whereas I find that in Africa, they don't skim a little bit off. Like if it's a $10 million contract in the West, like I say, they might take a gifted car that you might not know about. But in Africa, they seem to take 9 million of the 10 million. Do you know what I mean? And there's 1 million left.
Well, I think, and there's another issue I would say is that oftentimes, let's say if you're a corrupt official in the United States, you're going to take that money that you stole and put it in a bank in the United States or buy a house in the United States. The difference in Africa is that when they get that, they buy their house in Switzerland.
Yeah.
So in other words, the money doesn't kind of recirculate in the economy. They take it outside the continent. And so therefore, I mean, corruption is not horrendous if the money stays circulating in the economy.
Well, it's still not great, but yeah.
No, obviously,
I
right.
understand
But if you
your
had to
point.
choose between the two.
Yeah, sure.
Right.
But it all just comes down to education, and like I mentioned earlier about the tribalism, it's so difficult because the culture of Africa is so different from the culture of the West that even when they try to divide up countries into state lines, they're ultimately divided on tribal level. So then for people to vote sensibly and intelligently based on policy versus based on whatever tribe someone belongs to is such a hard nut to crack. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It's like if someone believes that.
But you guys were tribal in Ireland and the UK.
Yeah, but our tribes were minorly different. You know what I mean?
Right.
There was only marginal differences, and it all then comes down to education, which comes down to wealth. So it's I mean, I'm not so hopeful, to be honest.